All right. So you had this idea, Shannon, that we need to look at our businesses sometimes. Sometimes we have to, but other times it's just a good idea to ask the question, how to cut costs while preserving value.
That's right.
I like this idea.
Yeah.
The first thing that came to mind for me is let's define value in your business. And we're all going to define it differently, right? But if you're going to preserve it, you better know what it is, because you're going to be taking other things away, potentially.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
What is valuable? And I think you can ask the question two different ways. One is, what's valuable to your customers, right? And then the other thing is, what's valuable to your business? Because you know where you want to get your business in the future. And that may or may not be valuable to your customers today. Hopefully it'll be valuable to future customers or your current customers in the future. But you want to look at the question both ways as you head down this path, so that you know what's the non-negotiable part of this. What has to be preserved, because that's baked into this, right? If we're preserving value, let's define value. And that's going to be different for every business, right?
It is. And it's a good point. Like for me, I have this big list, and I'll tell you the last thing I cut, I'll tell you what it is first, and that's employees. I always fight to protect the people that work for me. They've always been my most valuable asset. And I'm all for things like, hey, let's not hire for a few months or 6 months. Let's see where I'm, a crazy optimist. I always think our best years are ahead of us. I still do. But I think the immediate future is far less uncertain. I think there's a very good chance that we're rolling into a recession here. That's to let off some of the steam. If you've looked at the markets and you look at housing and interest rates, and there's a lot of things going on with fuel prices. I'm in California, and average cost of gas is over $6 a gallon right now. It impacts every single thing you could imagine. So, looking at what you cut costs and things. The last thing for me is employees, but I have a question for you, Dave. I wanted to ask you. Yeah. Because I'm always shy. I hesitate to talk about bad news. It's one of my weakest points when I talk to employees, because I have this optimistic thing. I don't want to talk about bad news. But should you have a conversation with them about what's going on? I mean, they know, they see it, right? But hey, we're going to have we may have a recession or a slowdown in the economy in the next year. How could that impact our business? And you have to talk with them, right? They have to know what's going on.
Yeah. When, I'm the easy example is to rewind about 2 years, maybe 2 years and 2 months, to when lockdown started with the pandemic and, all of that stuff. Businesses were closing, or, long before PPP or any of that stuff saw the light of day. Everybody knew that we were having a problem, right? That's right. There was, so the elephant was in the room, and we were talking about it already. But it hit me, about a month into things, and it might not have been a month. It might have been just a few weeks. But it seemed like things had been going on a while. Like, it wasn't days into this. It was okay. Here we are now. Of course, me as the business owner, I get to see everything. I get to know everything about the health of the business, right? It's like I have to know that. Whether I want to admit some of those things or not at the time is different, right? But I know it. I'm aware of these things, whether I choose to ignore them or pay attention to them or whatever. I know them. And it hit me one day. I knew that our companies at that point in time were all solid. Like, we were going to be able to keep everybody employed for 6 months while we figured out what was going on in the world. And I knew this.
Okay.
And then suddenly it hit me one morning. I'm like, wait a minute. I've known this, and I've been fully aware of this for like a week, because I dug in. I'm like, all right, if revenue slows and this happens and that happens, what are my options, and what difficult decisions might I need to make? And so I went through and I did it all. So I had done this exercise and realized, okay, we're going to be fine for a little while. Like, who knows how long this is going to go, what impacts it's going to have. We don't know, but we can do 6 months. No problem. And then it hit me about a week after I did all that. Wait a minute. my employees have no idea. They don't have access to the same information that I do, so they can't do this exercise for themselves.
Yeah, and you want their help, right? And their buy-in on what's going on.
Yeah. So I called a staff meeting and I said, hey, I want to let you know. And it was not, acknowledging that things in the market were bad and it might negatively impact the business long term, but we don't know. I hate having those kinds of conversations because, like you said, I'm an optimist like you. I like to just deliver good news. I did have good news, but it was good news in a crummy situation. It was like, yeah, we don't need to do this, and we don't need to fire anyone, and we don't need to make any changes right now. But we are not going to be hiring anyone at that point either. Yeah. And every single one of them had already been thinking about it.